Welcome to Latkes and Ketchup. My name is Rabbi Ezra Leventhal, and today as our guest, we have fourth-year rabbinical student and former CBI rabbinic intern, David Elitzer. Hi, David.
Hi, Ezra. It's so good to be here.
It is so good to have you here. I feel very blessed. It took lots of scheduling and work to get this recording time while you are here in town for your Scholar in Residence weekend. Do you feel extra scholarly?
Oh, I do. I also feel extra covered in pollen, which is a lovely feeling because it's not quite spring in New York.
Yeah, you're getting a pre-show. You're getting like a preview of the allergies to come.
I know, but yes, I feel scholarly. I feel Charlottesville. I feel just very, very excited to be back here.
Excellent. All right, so most of our listeners are going to know you because most of our listeners are CBI attendees. But for those of them who might be joining and not know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself, David.
Yeah, so I'm, as you said, a fourth-year rabbinic student at HUC in New York. But before that, I was never really planning on becoming a rabbi. I thought I was going to become a Mesopotamian art historian.
Oh, wow.
Which some of you listening have maybe known this about me when I try to bring in Mesopotamian stuff in a lot of my teachings. But eventually went on to do other things, did some policy things, and then had a change of course and decided to become a rabbi. But when I'm not doing that, I also like to go on long walks with my dog, Earl Grey. It's a good little dachshund.
He just showed me pictures. It's a very cute dog.
He's a very, very good boy.
Oh, I'm glad to hear. Glad to hear. Not too mischievous.
I think he's the appropriate level of mischievous.
That's right. That's good. Because, I feel like you and I, so David and I were in school for part of the same time, and we really bonded over the fact that we are both mischievous.
Yes.
So, yeah, honestly, when I heard that, so when I was interviewing to be the assistant rabbi here, David was the intern. And when I found out that David was working here and was having a good time here, I was like, that will be a good fit for me. We are not the exact same shape of rabbi, but we are similar enough shapes of rabbi that like where you work, I think I too will work.
I was like, I think Ezra is going to do great here.
Thank you for your confidence.
Fun fact, for those of you who might not know this, you were my predecessor as the vice president of the Student Association of New York for the Hebrew Union College.
Oh, so very official, so very fancy, both of us.
Very fancy.
Yes, I do think that's so funny. And I know you had like a word to describe my administration and yours because both of our presidents were like short, very together, type A women.
Yes.
And then we were the vice presidents.
Yes. I think we described it as an Obama Cheney ticket.
Yes, Obama Cheney ticket. That's what you called us. Just like somebody who had it together and was in charge, and then like a chaotic menace in the background.
Exactly.
Yeah, I remember telling Lara, that was my president at the time, regularly, like anytime someone needed to say something controversial, like someone needed to take the fall for something, I was like, Lara, let me do it.
Yep, let's do it.
I will say the thing that you are afraid to say, and you can clean up the mess afterwards. I will do it. We are the fall guys.
We are the fall. And you know what? We both ended our terms on, good terms with everybody.
Exactly,
so that's good.
Exactly. Yeah, lovable fall guys.
Exactly.
Lovable, mischievous fall guys. All right, so today is extra fun because when we were planning this podcast, I asked David what he would like to talk about, and I did not tell him what I'm going to talk about. So you, dear listener, actually know more about how this conversation is going to go than David does because the title of the episode will reveal what I'm going to talk about. So there's some dramatic irony, some tension, as David does not know where we are going.
Bum, bum, bum.
So I got to ask you, David, did you bring the latke or the ketchup?
I think I brought the latke.
You did bring the latke.
I brought the latke.
I realized as I asked you that question, maybe I would need to answer it for you, but you did. You brought the latke.
50-50. I think I went for it. I took the chance.
And I've got some really fun mystery ketchup for you in a bit. So, David, tell us about your latke.
Okay, so my latke might sound familiar to some of the people listening here, but for those of you who have never heard this, I'm going to tell a story. For those of you who have heard this, I think it's a good story. So there was a guy who was just down by the river.
Ooh, tension building. We don't know where this is going either.
This could go in a lot of different directions.
A lot of guys have been near rivers.
A lot of guys have been near rivers. And let's even say it was a beautiful sunny day on the river.
Ooh, why not?
We're talking like 72 degrees.
Ugh, are we covered in pollen?
We're covered in pollen.
Covered in it. Let's go.
Yeah, we're talking like at least 95% humidity.
Oof.
But like in a good way, like in a we're just kind of in it way.
We're in it.
And the craziest thing happened next. The heavens just opened up.
What?
And this guy saw visions of God. And at this moment that the vision started, a storm came raging in, and he saw this like huge cloud of intense lightning, and at the center of this cloud was like this four-headed, four-bodied creature. I mean, we're talking like a creature. It had like there's four parts of it. Each had four heads, human faces, like all sorts of other animal faces.
Wait. So 4 parts, each with 4 heads, total of 16 heads?
We're talking 16 heads.
16 heads.
We're talking 16 heads.
Okay.
And get this, there were this guy on the river. Remember, he's like covered in pollen, just like chilling on the river.
Yeah.
He looks up and he sees that there's like fiery coals burning like torches in between each of the heads. And it's like spewing fire and lightning. And you want to hear something really, really out there?
You know I do, David.
This creature had 4 wheels. And this guy on the river, again, covered in pollen, like totally schwitzing.
He was
like,
having a chill day.
Having a chill day. The heavens are opening up. He sees that this creature has these 4 wheels, and each of the ribs of the wheels are covered in eyes.
What?
Yeah. And then, you know what happens next?
I don't.
He looks up, and he sees that there's a sapphire throne. And you know who's sitting on the throne? The likeness of God.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. Well, really the glory of God he sees. It's a little unclear if he sees God or the glory of God, but
like, is it Shekhinah? Is it?
It's like it's the kavod of God. He sees
the honor, the weightiness.
The honor, the weightiness, the presence. And yeah, and he thought he was just going out by the river.
He thought that he was just having a pollen and sweat kind of day.
Yeah.
And no, he's having like a wheel and eyes and fire and God kind of day.
Definitely.
Definitely that kind of day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to know this guy's name?
I do.
This guy's name is Ezekiel.
That's what it is. We're talking book of Ezekiel.
We're talking the opening chapter of Ezekiel in the description of the fiery chariot, which is something that I have to admit I spend more time thinking about than I probably would like to fess up to.
Why won't you fess up to it? I think we should all be thinking about this text way more often than we are. And I think that, like, I don't know if you've seen these things on the internet where they're like biblically accurate angel, and that's what they refer to it online as now, which, like, look, it's not the only angel that is described in Torah or Bible, but yeah, I love that we're all coming around to biblically accurate angel.
It's just there, in Tanakh, in all of Jewish tradition, there's a lot of different things. There's something for everybody. There's more rational material. There's more abstract material. But we also have just really incredible stuff like Ezekiel. Like, this is actually in the Tanakh. Like, we have this.
Yeah. Personally, the angel for me is an angel of eyes and wheels and fire. Like,
Yes.
that's my angel.
Yes. Yeah, and we have the chariot. We have like angels all around.
Right.
Like it's this, and of course people go on. I mean, again, people who came to the Beit Midrash the other day know that there's a whole tradition after this about the mystics imagining all the angels that are like surrounding this chariot. There's a whole world out there that at least I was not raised with. Going to Hebrew school, learning about what actually is part of Jewish tradition.
Our Hebrew school teachers taught us such normal things. Do you teach really weird things to the children now?
You know what? I try to teach it in an age appropriate way.
Yeah.
Sure.
You got to be age appropriate. But I am bringing them the weird, and I figure you are too. You're in the mission.
I do try to bring the weird at every possibility.
Excellent. Okay, so there's one more thing about this creature, this being, what would you call it? Entity, angel?
Well, some call it the tetraform, which is not the most fun term. I would call it the Merkava.
The Merkava.
Which is Hebrew for chariot.
Excellent. So, well, actually, I think this part is technically like God speaking, not that. Does the Merkava ever speak? Do the heads speak?
This is actually something that came up in the discussion the other day.
Oh, it did. That's right.
That there's a reference to the roaring sound, and we were discussing as a group, is the roaring sound the chariot speaking, or is the roaring sound God speaking, or is it an angel? Yeah. We could say it was let's call it a divine noise.
Divine noise. Great. So within this divine noise, one of the things that it repeats is be not afraid.
Yes.
And I just think that that's such an interesting thing for it to be saying.
Right.
Because objectively, think about what's happening here. He was having a chill, sweat, and pollen spring day by the river, and now eye wheels on fire, sapphire throne with God. I think I'd be afraid, personally.
Yeah, I'd be terrified. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. So on the one hand, we've got this horrifying image. I mean, horrifying, awesome, more like ira, if you will. That's the Hebrew word that kind of means fear and awe. I like to describe it as looking up at a sky full of stars and feeling very tiny.
Yeah.
A lot of ira going on here.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, the word awe, that, awesome in its original, sense is full of awe.
Yeah.
But I want to say also taking out religious devotion, I know people have various associations with Ezekiel. Reading this, I think this stuff is just awesome. It's so cool.
It's so cool and so fun. And I don't know. I do think that I think that there's a reason that it has this kind of staying power, it speaks to something. We're all trying to look out into the cosmos and figure out what's going on here. And what Ezekiel finds is this.
Totally.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing about that. We're going to get more into it in the dip portion, which is when we compare the latke with the ketchup. But are you ready for the ketchup, David?
Oh, I am ready for the ketchup.
Okay. So we're going to start with a game. The game is kind of like a choose your own adventure, except ultimately you don't get to make the choices I do. I am going to take you on a journey, on a tale. We're going to go through a story. And the name of the game is Do You Trust This Person? I'm going to put you in some scenarios. You're going to tell me whether or not you trust the people around you in this situation.
Okay.
And what you might be inclined to do, but then ultimately I'm going to tell you what you do because I get to decide where the story is going.
Oh, well, sign me up on this journey.
Yeah. No, the other day when I pitched this idea to David that I wouldn't tell him where we were going, Rabbi Tom was in the room and seemed horrified. He was like, no, do not do that. And I was like, Tom, I would never do that to you, but I would do it to David.
It's no, Ezra, whatever journey you want to take me on right now, I'm like, let's do this.
I knew you would be down. Okay. So, in this situation, you are not a Mesopotamian archaeologist.
Ah, bummer.
You are not a rabbi.
Okay.
You are a real estate lawyer.
Oh, man. Okay.
Yeah, it's a different reality.
Yeah.
Give yourself a second to adjust. So you're a real estate lawyer, very practical, I assume, and you get a letter.
Okay.
A letter saying that there is a man who wants you to help him buy a new house. Mm-hmm. He's a very wealthy man.
Okay.
And he is going to pay you very well for this deal. And he invites you to come out to help him broker the deal to his large castle estate.
Ooh.
Out of the city. You live in the city.
Okay.
What city? Ambiguous.
Sure.
The city.
The city.
And you're going to go off into the country to this castle, hypothetically. That's what's been offered to you in the letter. Do you trust this man?
Oh, man. So can I ask a follow-up question?
Yes, you can.
Are there going to be other people at the castle?
Yeah, there will be other people at the castle.
Okay, so I'm not going to be going alone to a castle from someone I've never met.
No. You're not going alone. He's got a large staff there.
Okay.
Yeah. People in town know of this man.
And tell me if I need to commit one way or the other, but my first reaction is that I wouldn't say that I would immediately trust him, but I also wouldn't say that I would distrust him.
Okay.
I think I would go in open to either possibility, but I would go.
You will go, but your hackles are up.
I am open to possibilities.
Open to possibilities. Ever the optimist, David Elitzer. David Elitzer, real estate lawyer,
Exactly.
but David Elitzer nonetheless. Okay, great. That's the choice you were going to have to make either way.
Great.
So you're going to the castle. I'm so happy for you. So you show up. Huge estate.
Okay.
Really like picturesque, sprawling. It's beautiful.
Are there tapestries?
Oh, tapestries for days.
Oh, yes.
So many tapestries. Ornate tapestries.
Incredible.
Beautiful colors. The man, you meet him. He's an older man.
Okay.
He's dressed very well. He's got like jewelry. He's very, decked out. He looks nice. He's extremely polite to you. He offers you beverages. He offers you whatever you need. He shows you to your room. Your room is lovely.
Ooh.
Yeah, you're really like, ooh, I'm going to have such a nice little castle work vacation. And then he says, okay, one
Okay.
rule. Once you go to bed at night, do not leave your room.
Oh.
Oh.
I would say that those hackles that you described before would be definitely going up.
The hackles are raising.
The hackles are raising, and I would say my options are still trust or don't trust.
Yeah, trust or don't.
I would say don't trust. I would say at this point I would be moving in the don't trust direction.
Okay, but as somebody who no longer trusts the person you're working for, would you leave your room at night?
Oh. Well, I have a hard time thinking what I would gain from leaving my room at night.
Well, what if he's expecting you to be in your room?
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would at least stick my head out the door.
You at least want to see what's going on.
I think I might even stick my whole body out the door at some point. I don't think I'd want to leave go a very far distance from my room, but I think I would definitely want to at least see what was going on. But I would also be aware that I would definitely want proximity to the room because I have no idea what's going on here.
You want an escape route if necessary.
Right. I want to scope it out.
Okay, great, because you are going to leave your room at night.
Okay, good.
Yeah, of course you are. Of course you are. You don't get to decide. You just get to tell me whether or not you trust it. So, you do leave your room at night because you're a menace.
Yeah.
Even as David Elitzer, real estate lawyer.
Absolutely.
Menace in your heart. So, you go out into the castle.
Okay.
Not that much is going on. It's nighttime. It's dark, but you hear some voices and you start following the voices. Again,
Ooh,
curiosity.
okay.
And you see 3 beautiful young women, and they start to notice you.
Okay.
Do you trust them?
Interesting. I think I'll have to go to my first answer that I think jury's out.
Jury's out.
I don't know him.
Yeah.
I could come to trust them,
could.
but I've also just been told that I can't leave my room at night. So things are weird.
This is a weird place.
Yeah.
This is weird.
I think I'm going to be open to the idea that interactions can go in a lot of different directions.
This is true, which is great because you are going to interact with them. So the 3 young women, they come up to you and they're like, oh my gosh, we heard that you were coming. You're so much more handsome than we expected. You look so good in your real estate lawyer pajamas.
Right.
This is a great color on you. They are really they are giving you compliments. They are buttering you up. They are flirting with you. Do you trust them?
I think I'm going to be starting to get suspicious.
I
think I'm starting to get suspicious here.
You're like, I'm not that handsome.
Yeah, I was already suspicious before. I'm like this suit that I'm wearing to bed right now is definitely not the cute pajama look I was,
These are my B-level pajamas.
Right, these are my B-level pajamas.
I am not bringing my game right now. Exactly. Okay. So you were right to not trust them because one of them tries to just go in for it and kiss you on the neck, which is a really bold move.
Yeah, definitely a boundary transgression.
Yeah, really.
As we would say in our various classes in rabbinical school.
Yes, if we were in family systems or life cycle, that's what we would say. This is not very consensual. She did not ask.
No.
It was real, just escalation. And you feel sharp teeth.
Okay.
And then the guy who employed you runs in and pulls you away from these women. And he's like, you leave him alone. He is not for you. No.
Okay.
And he throws them a bag with something wriggling in it.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like a medium-sized creature.
Whoa.
Like definitely bigger than Earl Grey.
Okay.
But
bigger than Earl Grey.
Bigger
okay.
than Earl Grey. I would say like maybe this like a large to medium-sized dog.
Okay, so a little bit larger than a New York City rat.
A little bit.
Okay.
Just a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Right about that size.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, so this guy has now saved you from these suspicious, transgressive, potentially sharp-teethed women.
Okay.
But he also threw them this bag of something that definitely seems to be alive.
Right. Concerning, for sure.
Do you trust this man?
I think I have a lot of questions.
A lot of questions.
I think I have a lot of questions. I think probably no. Probably the answer is still no.
Yeah. That's a really great instinct. So we've come to the end of the do you trust this person portion. Do you know who this person is?
This person keeps company with vampires.
Yeah.
Okay.
Vampires are definitely involved.
Oh, vampires are definitely involved.
Definitely involved. Do you recognize this story?
Is this Dracula?
It's Dracula. It's Dracula. We are comparing the Merkabah to Dracula.
Oh,
today.
my goodness.
Yes. So the reason I wanted to bring in Dracula is because Dracula, I think, especially when we look at it through a monster theory lens, which I know that it's maybe a little bit transgressive to call the Merkabah a monster.
I mean, is it?
I think that it's got some monstrous qualities to it.
I think it's totally a monster.
Yeah, it's got 16 heads. It's actively on fire.
Yes.
It's got a lot of eyes. We don't know what it can do.
Yes.
It's very creature-like. I think that there's an argument to be made here. But the Merkabah has got this like really frightening exterior and is saying, don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Whereas Dracula has this very potentially trust-endearing exterior. He, so prior to Dracula, vampire lore was not as specific. There were a lot of cultures that had something like a vampire in them. Like historians theorize that it was kind of just people trying to figure out what exactly was going on with the human body when it was in states of decay. So if they were watching a corpse of somebody who was very sickly go through the stages of decomposition, and they started to bloat, they started to look ruddier, they started to look healthier, it started to look like they were coming back to life, obviously pretty confusing. So they started to theorize that there were these creatures that rose from the dead and had these powers and abilities, and they all kind of varied across cultures, but blood-sucking was a pretty popular one.
Whoa.
I know, yeah. So Dracula really kind of becomes a turning point in vampire lore because Dracula is not just this kind of feral thing that springs out of the night. He is wealthy. He is polite. He is trying to endear you to him. He cannot do anything without your permission, which is another really interesting element of it.
Whoa.
So we've got all of these like surface level things that might make you seem like this is a trustworthy situation, like this is a person that you should be around, but lurking beneath is something much more sinister.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I just feel like that's a really interesting kind of comparison point to the Merkabah.
Yeah, like the same issues are at play, right? You have this like the issue of trust and the issue of like, do you actually want to be involved in this? And both are at play, but they're inverses of each other.
Yeah, and both are saying be not afraid in their own way.
Yeah.
But the Merkabah has like a little bit of a, I think that perhaps not being afraid in that situation is going to work out for you a lot better than not being afraid of Dracula.
Well, it's interesting though. So I was teaching yesterday on the Hechalot literature, which is this late antique mystical tradition that's really, really inspired by the opening of Ezekiel.
Right.
And a lot of the tradition is preoccupied with how do you actually get to heaven, like to the upper stages of heaven. So there's this idea that there's 7 palaces and, you know, God is, you know, really like you want to get to God in like the 7th palace. That's the goal. But it also spends a lot of time thinking about how dangerous the journey is, that there's like it's really, really scary and dangerous and a frightening experience to go up there. And like, you might not actually make it. And so even this, like, yeah, you might want to get up there, but there's a big like caution sign of like, whoa, like, don't be afraid, but also like, this is actually pretty dangerous. Like, you actually also should be kind of afraid.
Be not afraid, but like consider what you're doing.
Consider the risks.
Make an informed choice here,
Right?
To get reform about it,
Right?
Yeah. So one of the things that we talk about in monster theory, if you know me and my research background, I love horror.
Yes, Ezra loves horror.
Ezra loves horror. And so I find monsters to be something really inspiring. I mean, I think that monsters were really how I got into horror. My first thing that I really became afraid of and then loved was the Loch Ness Monster. I still love the Loch Ness Monster. There's a Loch Ness Monster in my office.
Can I ask what you love about it?
I mean, at this point, I've loved the Loch Ness Monster for so long that it's like almost hard to describe. But sometimes, like, I have literally sat and thought about the fact that I will probably never see the Loch Ness Monster.
You never know.
Cried. Like, I feel I like the shape of it. I like the way that it moves. I like the idea of like large sea creature like that with long neck.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's so good, but to me, it is correct.
It speaks to something in you.
It does. It speaks to something deep in me. Like if I could have a tiny one as a pet, I would in a heartbeat. I would be one of those people that like has an exotic pet and spends way too much money on my tiny baby Loch Ness Monster.
Sure.
That's the way I would love that creature. But I digress. So monsters, through the idea of monster theory, represent the cultural context of fear that they come from. So monsters aren't really just about like, you know, it's a scary wolf man or it's a scary man with long teeth who's going to suck your blood. It is, if a monster has staying power, it reflects something that's alive in the culture and alive within us that maybe we have anxiety about, maybe we have desire towards. It speaks to something in us. And I think that that's true for both Dracula and the Merkaba. And I have my own theories about what they represent, but any thoughts off the bat of like, what does it mean that Ezekiel looks up at the sky and sees this giant burning wheel thing?
Yeah.
Like, what does that reflect in us as people?
I think something that I spend a lot of time thinking about is like, how can I connect to what Ezekiel is feeling in this moment?
Yeah.
And I think it's not so obvious all the time. I think the flashiness is very flashy. The flashing lights are very flashy.
It's quite flashy. Mm-hmm.
And it can be very distracting. Mm-hmm. But I think the staying power of Ezekiel is that whether you realize it or not, I think it's hard to not feel this fear that you're talking about. And I think this fear is really, really visceral fear.
Yeah.
That the monster the Merkaba inspires, I think is a really relatable feeling that, sure, there's tons of feeling everywhere, all over Tanakh, all over Jewish tradition, but I think there's few places where it's as palpable as in Ezekiel.
Right.
And it's not something that I think we talk about a lot. We get really hung up on the details of, wait, like this chariot, we can't talk about this. This is too scary to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's not the scariness itself that I think we spend enough time thinking about, which is, I think about Dracula too, that like, I mean, imagining myself going into this castle, like I felt a little like apprehensive. I felt a little scared, and that feeling is a relatable feeling that has, I think, allowed. It sounds like, I mean, tell me if you think about it this way too. That has allowed Dracula to stick around for as long as it has.
So I actually have my own kind of monster theory on both the Merkaba and Dracula.
Tell me. Oh my goodness.
I'm going to pitch to you for why they have this staying power. So I think that Dracula and vampires in general are really animated by two big fears that human beings have. One, which I touched on a little bit when I was talking about the vampire folklore pre-Dracula, is just the fear of death and the mystery of death. Very basic, very core fear of ours. We don't understand what happens to our bodies after we die. We don't understand what happens to our consciousness after we die. And so having this creature that literally comes back from the dead and tries to pull us in with it, scary, terrifying, hard to sit with. And the other one that is a little bit more compelling, especially with Dracula, is the fear of connection with other people.
Yes.
So it's I think it's both in a sexual way and a non-sexual way. Like if you think about the basics of the need to get permission to enter rooms for vampires, they can't do anything to you unless you let them, which is such a scary notion that like you might trust something and then it goes really poorly.
Yeah.
And then of course there's the visceral with the blood sucking. That's, you know, exchanging of bodily fluids. That's literally passing the boundary of your skin. That is being intimate in a way. And I think that is a really real fear for us too.
Ezra, I think you're really putting your finger on something that I've tried in various ways to describe with Ezekiel, but this I think actually offers like a really helpful way of talking about this issue, that when we talk about relationships, we often, there's often an underlying assumption that that is an easy goal, even if it's hard to get into a relationship, but that relationships, being a really, really, really deep relationship is like rainbows and sunshine and all this stuff. And I think something that I've thought a lot about with Ezekiel is that, and I'm not talking about Ezekiel's relationship to God, I'm talking about my relationship as a reader to Ezekiel, that in trying to connect with Ezekiel, there's something very scary about actually taking the leap to be in relationship again with we're talking about I'm talking about Ezekiel as like a literary idea, right? Not necessarily as like a historical figure, but to be in relationship with Ezekiel requires saying, I know you see reality differently from how I do, and I'm still going to be really, really close with you.
I'm still going to stay in the journey with you.
And that's really, really terrifying. And I think that your idea of monster theory here with Dracula, of saying that there is something at its core kind of terrifying about taking the leap to say, I'm going to fully trust you. And again, I think Dracula plays out the fear, right? It's like, I think in reality, most of the time when we get into a relationship with someone, we're not going to get our blood sucked from us. But I think this is really helpful way of thinking about that. There is a lot of times this fear, and I think you find this especially around people who do see reality differently. I think it's easier to be in deep relationship with someone who sees the world similarly to how you do, but to be with someone who maybe it's a political disagreement, maybe it's it's someone dealing with other things going on in their life. Maybe it's mental illness. Maybe it's just illness of any time. Maybe it's life experiences that are different. To say, we are going to work together to really be close can be kind of scary sometimes.
We're going to walk in this together even if we're seeing the path differently. Terrifying. But I think to kind of layer on my monster theory shtick with the Merkabah, I think that that's a real representation of what it is like to try and be a spiritual seeker. If you are trying to understand what the meaning of our existence is, what the meaning of consciousness is, what the divine is, to stare into that for long periods of time, also terrifying. And I think that, you know, if we look at the way that fear plays out in both of these scenarios, with intimacy and with death, animating in Dracula, we're watching it play out in like the worst case scenario. We're seeing metaphorically someone in an abusive relationship, somebody getting dragged into a premature death. And then with the Merkabah, it's saying, be not afraid, even though the exterior is very scary, but it can kind of go either way. You can ascend to this highest level of heaven. You can ascend to this point where you really understand everything, or it might be out of your depth.
And in contrasting the Merkabah with Dracula, I'm thinking about how to respond to fear, right? Because in the Merkabah context, we have the be not afraid, where the fear is saying, okay, you see the fear, move beyond that. Whereas with Dracula, you see the fear, and it's like maybe actually there's something to trust with that fear. And you don't really know how it's going, but I'm thinking about is like maybe the fear is a sign for us to pay closer attention.
Absolutely. Fear is if you've heard me talk about horror before, I gave a Yom Kippur sermon about horror films, so people have heard this from me before. But fear is a really big animating interest for me, because I think that fear has a lot more of a spiritual experience to offer us than we give it credit for.
Yes.
And I think that is really played out in Ezekiel in ways that it's not in a lot of other texts.
Totally.
But if we think about different texts in Torah that really stay with us, a lot of them, fear is a huge feature. Yeah. Like, we're still talking about Cain and Abel.
Yep.
That was scary. The creation story, it's scary. When there's stakes, when there's fear, when we have that kind of adrenaline rush reaction to what's going on in the text, it provides something.
Look at Moses. What is when God appears to Moses and says, "Oh, you're going to be hello, hi, I'm God, and you're now going to be the leader." Like, what does Moses say?
No, not me.
Right? He's
wrong guy.
He's terrified.
He's so scared. Yeah. So I think that, understanding fear in both of these cases, I think it teaches us something about what resonates, what it is to be, a weird little human creature running around in a meat sack on Earth, which I'm constantly trying to figure out.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're in maybe this is the real reason we are both menaces. It's because we both have a healthy to unhealthy curiosity about the emotion of fear.
I think at the end of the day, for me, I think it's a lot. It's part of what keeps this all interesting.
Yeah.
That if I were to spend my days just thinking about texts that were like, yeah, that tracks.
That tracks. Mm-hmm,
this, or not that fear doesn't track. I think fear tracks too. But if I was like, yeah, this is totally a normal, great, good, everything's green light to go.
Nothing makes me feel weird inside.
Nothing makes me feel like, what's the fun in that?
What is the fun in that? I absolutely agree. That is core agreement there. All right, I'm going to open you up to something that we might not have core agreement about.
Okay.
This is the real controversial question of the podcast.
Let's go.
What is your latke topping of choice?
So I have the low hanging fruit answer, and then I have the slightly more advanced answer, which I don't know how advanced it is, but the low hanging fruit answer, fruit, applesauce. I'm a big applesauce fan.
Applesauce.
I'm also
guy.
Extremely lactose intolerant, so sour cream is really off the table.
You and me both, buddy.
Yep. They have gotten much better at making lactose free options, but applesauce for me.
Yeah.
But I think I am so grateful for the occasion of Thanksgiving several years ago.
Yes.
For introducing me to the possibility of cranberry sauce and latkes. And it is something that my family has maintained ever since. Oh
my gosh. I love cranberry sauce. Yeah. So this is a revelation.
You get the acidity of the cranberries counterbalancing the base of the latke together. And again, if you want that applesauce kind of in that mix a little bit,
cran apple.
Oh, you mix it all together. It is so good.
Oh, David, you've changed my life today.
Oh, and I, if anyone out there wants to try it, if you haven't already, I would be very interested in hearing people's reactions.
I will make sure to send you any reactions that I receive.
Please
to
do.
Cranberry sauce and latkes, including my own.
Yes.
Which is, I'm coming for it.
I want photos, photographic evidence.
Maybe I'll go to Trader Joe's and get those cheater latkes that aren't that bad. They're
Really?
not that bad. The Trader Joe's latkes, really not that bad. They're not as good as a latke that you make yourself and you do right. But, in a pinch.
Yeah, it does the job.
And I'm not making latkes from scratch today in spring. That just feels so wrong. But I will keep you posted if I get some cheater latkes and try out latkes and cranberry sauce, because dang, that sounds good.
What's am I allowed to ask what your combination is?
You are the first person to ask me back. In a perfect world, I like to do the applesauce with the lactose intolerant person, sour cream, and then also some hot sauce. That's the
hot sauce,
salt, fat, acid, heat, kind of. Yeah.
Yes, Sami Nosra style. Hot dog. How have I never thought of that?
Hot sauce. It's good.
Yes.
It's good. Yeah. That it goes off. So that's your latke homework.
Wow. Okay, excellent. So I'll do that. I'll send you photos. You do that. You do mine. You send me photos. Great.
Perfect. We'll keep the people posted. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Ezra, thank you so much.
I am so glad we got to do this. This has been Latkes and Ketchup, the official podcast of Congregation Beth Israel in Charlottesville, Virginia. I'm Rabbi Ezra Leventhal, and I'm going to dip.